welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s movie guide, Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast.
My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
And my name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I write about movies, and I'm also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
So we have two movies to talk about, as we often do on the show. But before we get to those, I want to say that over on our Patreon this week, we're talking about the winner of our Halloween horror movie poll. And that is the 1976 film Carrie, which is the first time watch for yours truly. And we had a really fun conversation about the movie, about Brian De Palma, about Stephen King adaptations. We kind of covered a few different topics in addition to going deep on Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we had a lot of fun with that. And if you're a patron, go check that out. If you're not a patron, please consider joining. For just $5 a month, you get access to weekly bonus episodes, and you can also vote it in polls. Every month we do a poll to be determined what next month's will be. And so definitely think about joining. And while I am on the topic, I want to say thank you to our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Now, onward to the main episode here. We have two movies, as I mentioned. We were kind of in the drama thriller territory here, and we were talking about The Line, which is it's a drama. I guess you could. I don't know. I've seen some things called a thriller. I wouldn't say it was thrilling, but it's about a fraternity.
Oh, shots fired.
Yeah, it's about a
I like
fraternity,
it.
and you can guess some shenanigans happen and things go too far. Shocker. And we're also talking about Magpie, which is a thriller. We're first going to talk about The Line. So it's written and directed by Ethan Berger and co-written by Zach Perdo and Alex Russick. It stars Alex Wolff, Bo Mitchell, Haley Bailey, Austin Abrams, Louis Pullman, and a few other people you've probably seen in things. It also has some brief performances by John Malkovich and Sherry O'Terry, as well as Scoot McNairy in kind of smaller roles. But our lead is played by Alex Wolff. And I love this one sentence IMDb summary. A university student lives life without fear of consequences. What?
Wait, is that it?
This is the biggest summary I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
And there's nothing more detailed in it. So we'll fill in the blanks. So
Wow.
Alex Wolff plays a kind of Tom Baxter. He's playing a kind of like a working class kid who is going to college. The college is called Sumter College. I don't know. Did they ever say where the college is? It's somewhere down south, for sure. I suspected in one of the Carolinas.
That's what I suspected too, based on the bridge that it goes over. It looks like the bridge in Charleston. I don't know if it is, but it looks like it.
Cool. I'm glad I was suspecting the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it is, but yes, but you and I are like vibing the same way in that way.
Right. So he's a member of fraternity. He's going back for his sophomore year of college. He lives in Florida. As I mentioned, kind of like a working class kid with a bunch of like snotty rich kids also in the fraternity, including his roommate, who is one of those like spoiled brat kids whose father is John Malkovich, and he's some CEO of some big company, and that obviously affords him a lot of leeway to be a dick and to engage in a lot of different shenanigans. But yeah, so Tom goes back to school. It's pledging is going on, and there's a new crowd of pledges who are freshmen, and there's this one Geddes O'Brien, played by Austin Abrams, who's kind of like the smart alecky, like, I'm gonna pledge the fraternity, but I'm gonna talk back and talk shit to people, and that does not go over so well with the brothers in the fraternity. The sophomores are not fans of that, and I mean, Alex Wolff's character, I feel like he's just one of those kind of like go along to get along kind of guys. He's trying to like fit in, and he definitely is not on board with some of the more like aggressive stuff that the fraternity is doing, especially when they start targeting Getty specifically to like pick on him and do lots of shit to him. And he's especially not on board when things go way too far, where they just start beating the shit out of him, and then his roommate Mitch. His roommate Mitch. I get him mixed up because the actor's name is Bo Mitchell and the character's name is Mitch Miller.
Right.
So yeah, his roommate Mitch punches out Geddes and kills him. He hits his head on the concrete in the garage at the beach house or the lake house or whatever that they're partying at one weekend. And then they try to cover up the death very poorly because they're frat guys. And
sorry,
come on, they've been drinking and smoking and partying,
guys. I mean, they don't even need to drink and smoke and party.
Yeah.
Well,
and then
they dump the body. They wrap it in a trash bag, weigh it down, dump it off a pontoon boat with all of the other pledges on it. And somebody actually says, "Hey, someone fell in the water." Did you hear that?
I thought they said someone saw us.
Oh.
And I was like, wow. But also I'm just thinking, like, if you're at all trying to claim that there was an accidental death, like he fell overboard, why would you wrap up the body? Wouldn't you just dump the body overboard?
Right? Great question.
Yeah. Not the sharpest knives in any drawers here. Yeah, things come crashing down after that. For Tom, he's heavily questioned by Scoot McNairy, who plays a cop in basically one scene in this movie. And he gets kicked out of school with some of the other guys who are, leading this. And then his roommate is expelled from school and charged. But obviously, because has a rich fucking father, he ends up not doing any time or really getting in any major trouble. And the movie kind of like ends with Tom is like, going to community college. He's taking his academics seriously. And he encounters his old roommate Mitch, who wants him to like go party, and he's like, "No, I'm kind of over that." And Mitch looks like he wants to cry.
Yeah.
And then, in addition to all the stuff that's going on, Tom has this relationship that he's forming with Annabelle, who's played by Halle Bailey, and I don't really know why they even include that in the movie. It feels like a weird like side plot because I'm like, she does not seem like the kind of person who would date a frat guy. And like, I know he's like, they kind of portray him as like, oh, he's not so bad for a frat guy. He's just, maybe kind of follows other people, but is not really a bad guy at his core. But it's just, I don't know why they include it in the movie. It feels kind of extraneous to me. Anyway, I think that's all the important points. Megan, what did you think of this movie?
It's fine. It's
Just
there.
fine.
It's fine. Yeah, I know that this has a lot of great reviews. And I can sort of see why. I know people love Alex Wolff. Love him. I think he's okay. Here. I think he's okay here. And I like Halle Bailey in this. I sort of agree with what you're saying about how her part feels kind of extraneous. I will say though that I do like that he like goes crying to her when like shit hits the fan and she's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing here? We slept together twice. Like we don't have a relationship, which I think is I found kind of hilarious because he clearly is way more into her than she is into him.
Yeah.
But I kind of would have liked to have seen something more along those lines, like developed. And I don't even mean developed as into more of a relationship, just something more developed. For me, there's a lot of horrifying stuff here. I mean, obviously you have lots of gross abusive behavior. You have lots of gross toxic masculinity. Yep. Lots of homophobia, all the
oh my God,
stereotypical disgusting, despicable things that I expected from frat bros in this film, especially a film that's, positioning itself as like a thriller. So I'm like, of course they're going to go too far. Of course they're going to be repulsive. Of course they're going to be disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I hate to say glad, but I'm glad that kid died rather than, because when they introduced Halle Bailey, I'm like, oh God, is something terrible going to happen with her? And they're going to do something racist because they keep calling her, they keep talking about how she's a lesbian and, and saying like, racist stuff about her. And so I was like, oh God, is that where the film's going? So thank God it didn't go there. I think this, I don't know. I just didn't really feel like this was intense enough. I didn't feel like it was thrilling enough. I didn't feel like it was written well enough. I feel like it kind of sort of is like a frat version of Whiplash. Like that's what it's kind of dancing around, but I don't think it is done as well as that. I think it's fine. I just really wish it had been more intense in its writing, in its characterization. And I don't know if it has to say anything new. It certainly doesn't, but it doesn't say anything new in regards to frats, in regards to men behaving badly and not having, repercussions, which the director in his statement in the press production notes was saying like, oh, that's what we want to focus on, is how there are no repercussions for these young men and how the majority of politicians and presidents have been in frats. And sure, that's all very true. I just don't know if there's anything new being said about that, but maybe there doesn't have to be. So I think it's an okay film. It's not bad. It's not great. I thought it was just okay.
Yeah, I think flat is the word that came to mind.
Great
after I finished
word.
It felt very flat.
Yes. It felt like it was like starting, but never really got going for me.
Never really got going. And then, once we got to the kid dying, I was kind of like, well, that's it. Like, I thought there would be something more, I don't know, salacious that was going to happen. Like, I knew they were just going to go too far with whatever they were doing and someone was going to end up dead. Like, that was inevitable.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
I think it's also the fact of the way it's shot and the way it's edited. Like, I feel like if you want it to feel more salacious or more intense, you need to have sharper editing and the cinematography needs to be better. So I think that's part of it too, is like part of it was, oh, that's just kind of it. But it's also in the way that it's framed that just, didn't quite work for me. And also for the last film to be released from Angus Cloud's filmography, which what a tragic end to his life. And he's such a talented actor. I would have liked to have seen more from him because he is so great and so charismatic in many of his roles, or was, before he tragically died.
Was he the guy that was saying to him, like, no, you did hit him?
Yes.
Was that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
God, that was infuriating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Infuriating that he said that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Listeners, so this leading up to this kid, getting punched and killed, they're beating him and he fights back. And so he starts hitting the other, frat guys, and Alex Wolff steps in to like try to break it up or just something, and he gets hit and falls over.
He does not
out.
He
does.
He's clearly like knocked out when he hits the floor.
Yeah. But then, the other guys try to say, oh, you were in on it too. You did it. You're just as responsible. And you hit him, even though he didn't. And the Angus Cloud's character repeatedly says, like, over and over again, I saw it. You hit him. I will tell anybody that you hit him. And it's just like, oh my God. Because he, when Alex Wolff wakes up, he's like, we need to call the cops. We need to, deal with this. We can't just sweep this under the rug. And no one else, of course, agrees.
Yeah. Shocker.
Yeah. Not surprising. Dave, what about you? What did you think of this?
I mean, it's not a piece of shit, but it's definitely not good. I mean, cinematography is really clumsy, especially during
Thank
that
you.
scene. And I know someone's going to, well, it's supposed to be. Yeah, fuck off. The lighting's kind of crummy. Not like it's just, it's flat, like kind of like the narrative is flat, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was distracted. You know, I don't really feel one way or the other about Alex Wolff. I always think that he's his brother, Nat Wolff, but he's not. But the whole time I'm thinking to myself, why is he doing Heath Ledger in Brokeback Mountain? What is this performance choice? Why is he using that voice? His mother doesn't have an accent. She even kind of makes fun of him for the way he has an accent. You know, the other guys, you know,
I think he's copying Lewis Pullman's character because he has that accent.
Oh, does he?
Yes, I think he's trying to emulate Lewis Pullman's character.
That didn't come across to me because Lewis Pullman's in like 3 scenes.
Yeah, he plays the president of the fraternity, listeners, and so he's Tom, Alex Wolff's character, kind of fancies himself as like the next in line to be president, and Todd, who's Lewis Pullman's character, does seem to think he's kind of trying to like groom him to be the next president. Like he has to go meet with the new dean, I think the new dean of students, and he brings, you know, Tom along and is like, you know, take notes and like be here as like a person to make me look good in front of the new dean.
Well, you certainly can't bring fucking Mitch. I mean, good Lord.
Oh God, no. That's gross.
Yeah, the thing that I just want to say, it's really hard to be interested in a movie in any way when one of the lead characters, I mean, Mitch's performance is so large, and his character takes up a lot of space, figuratively and literally. And he's such a hateful piece of shit. Like, I don't want to, like, I don't need my anti-heroes to be, you know, fucking awesome. Like, who wants to, you know, like Lee Van Cleef is a terrible human being in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but I really want to watch him. Whereas this guy's just a fucking dickhead. Like, there's nothing interesting about this character.
Yeah.
He's like pissed off at Geddes O'Brien because Geddes O'Brien, what did he do? He like flipped him off or called him a little bitch.
He talked shit about him and said, you know, shit about him in front of other people and was trying to embarrass him. I mean, like...
Which I have to say, yes, you shouldn't do that. Fraternities have rules. But at the same time...
But why join a fraternity? Like, I never had an interest in joining a fraternity because I would never want to do any of those things. I never would just do whatever people tell me to do.
No, he didn't.
So then why do it? Why did he pledge his fraternity? I didn't understand that. I'm like, fine, like stick up for yourself, then quit, drop out. Don't pledge this fraternity if you don't want to deal with this shit.
Yeah, it was. He says something to the effect of like blah 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 connections, but like his dad is. I don't remember who his dad is, but his dad's
like a mayor of a town,
is
like
that
a city.
His dad? I thought that was another guy.
They said no. They were like, we got to take him. His dad's like a mayor. Oh no, maybe that was someone
that
else.
was another guy. Yeah,
that was a scene very reminiscent of Animal House, by the way, where they've got like the slideshow of guys, and they're like, oh, like yes or no on this guy. I'm like, of course they're gonna say something racist about the Indian guy. Jesus,
of course, everything you expect them to do and say,
which is not to you know. And I just want to be, the filmmakers aren't condoning this. They're painting these guys
very clearly now.
They're painting these guys as a bunch of fucking rich douchebag assholes. But at the same time, it's so off-putting. Like, I don't know. It's just, who fucking cares?
What you mean.
Who fucking cares?
Well, that's
I know what you mean about Mitch, though, Dave. I've known some Mitches in my day.
I have too.
They're You look at them and you're like, but for having money, they would not be like, no one would want to hang out with them ever because they're such giant
one of them's
assholes.
running for president. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Pardon me. I made this podcast political.
I mean, all art is political. So I would argue our entire podcast is political.
Extra political. There you go.
I'm here for it. It's fine.
Sorry, Megan, what were you trying to say?
Wait, what was I trying to say? No, I'm not sure. I got sidetracked on the politics. I know what I was going to say, because you were saying, Dave, that Mitch is so hateful and that kind of they're all so awful. I agree in that, we've had this conversation many times that, about the likability of characters, and they don't need to be likable, but they do have to be interesting and compelling.
Yes.
And if you're going to not have them be interesting and compelling, you need to make damn sure your movie is technically perfect and that you have extremely swift pacing and really striking visuals, and like everything else just needs to be firing in order for you to put up with such, despicable scumbag humans.
Well put.
Thanks.
And I think that Mitch's character is just such a stereotypical asshole that, like, why do I want to follow around any of these guys? I mean, you got Lewis Pullman, who is clearly like just the upperclassman, douchey, above it all. Just fucking shoot me.
It felt so on the nose when he was like telling Alex Wolff, like, oh, when you're gonna, speak to the guys, like watch the speech from Gladiator. I watch that all the time to get hyped up. God. That felt so on the nose to me.
Yeah.
I will say, as someone who likes Gladiator, I was annoyed, but I'm sure that is something stupid that happens.
Anyway, I just didn't find anything interesting about these characters or this story. And I don't think, this is like, we got a 4-star scale. This is 1.5 stars, maybe 2. Not because anything's like shitty about it, although they're, cinematography, editing, but just because it's just kind of shit story. Like, who fucking cares about any of this shit? Yes, I know that they all get away with it. Like, I've been alive for 50 years. I know exactly how it works. So tell me something new, please.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got a little bit more agitated than I thought I would. Pardon.
I will say, I do think that Bo Mitchell is Mitch Miller. God, that is confusing, Evan. I'm with you on that. I wanted to mix up his thing. I will say, I think he does a fairly good job with such a gross character and kind of embodying that larger than life.
I'd agree with that.
Repulsiveness. Yes. Yeah.
I think he probably does the best in the film. Although I think Alex Wolff is fine. Like, I don't want to like knock him and say like, oh, he's bad. He's not. He's fine. I think he's better in other films, like in Hereditary. But I still think he's solid. But I think Bo Mitchell is doing a good job. I don't know. Oh, it's so great. Dave, I have to comment that your Letterboxd review is amazing because it's commenting on his hat that he wears. Show me your butthole. Like, oh my God. What is this hat?
I know. I just saw that and I was like, that's going to stick in the memory for a while.
I feel like that just like encapsulates so much of him. He also wears another gross hat in another scene that says shooting deers and chugging beers. And I'm like, oh, you're fucking gross.
Yeah. There's that scene too where Alex Wolff walks in their room and he's like polishing his gun.
Yes!
That is like his dad's gun or something. It's like rifle. What the fuck, dude?
So gross.
Yeah.
I feel like I need 5 showers after watching that film.
Yeah. It's I think he does give a good performance though, Bo Mitchell, because he does embody the character so well.
Yeah.
He does make you just feel all kinds of ick whenever he's around. Like, I don't think anything's ickier than watching him eat like hummus with his finger. Like, that made me want to vomit. Straight up.
Yeah, he's just so gross. I don't know. Maybe I like this movie more than I thought because talking about it, I'm kind of enjoying it more. No, I think it's just the talking about it. Talking with you two, not the actual movie watching.
Oh, something else that I thought was kind of hilarious but so cruel was the fact that I don't know if it's the fraternity or specifically the sophomore guys, their song is Blue, and they have it playing all the time, and when they leave, he's in the room and he's the last person in the room. He's clearly been sitting there for like what could be hours listening to the same song on loop. And I'm just thinking that is some really fucked up psychological torture to do to somebody, to make them listen to the same song for hours straight like that.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I did like that song. until I had to hear it like 20 times in this movie. And I'm like, it's such an earworm. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never getting it out of my head now.
Mm-hmm.
It is torture. You're right.
Yeah. Imagine being in that room for hours, just having to listen to it until they
No,
call you in
thank
just to
you.
beat the crap out of you.
No, thank you. Yeah. And then it ends. Then the film ends with the news clip of the guy who died in a hazing. So the cycle is just perpetuating over and over.
Mhm.
Oh my God. Mind blown.
I know you're shocked, Dave.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe Geddes would still be alive if they had the strippers come like they were supposed to, and then they wouldn't have had to resort to hazing.
Jesus. I was told there would be strippers and cocaine.
I mean, I kind of feel like in a way it's almost first degree murder because, you know,
yeah.
Mitch may have accidentally killed Geddes, but he was looking for any reason to like pound that kid into the sand. So,
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. I mean, especially after that he hit him in that football game. Geddes hit him and when he broke his nose.
Yes.
that
That was pretty fucking brutal. That was a low
Yeah.
blow. Like,
that was
Mhm.
stupid. That was genuinely like when he did that, I was like, I mean, I saw it coming because it cuts back to him and he starts running fast. It's like, here we go.
Yep.
But like, what a dumb fucking, they can't kick you out once you're in. Well, true.
I know. What rules is he live? Like, what planet is he living on? Ridiculous.
Also, I've never heard of a fraternity doing bids. I've only heard that from sororities, but you know, maybe Southern fraternities are different. I don't know.
I have no idea.
It's been so long since I was in college, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I was like, don't know.
Anyway,
well, it sounds like we're talked out on the line. Should we move on to Magpie?
Sure.
All right. So Magpie. It is directed by Sam Yates, written by Tom Bateman. It stars Daisy Ridley, of course. It has Matilda Lutz and Shazad Latif. And anyone else of note? I don't think so. And here's our one sentence IMDb. A couple find their lives turned upside down when their daughter is cast alongside a controversial major star.
she controversial?
Yeah,
I
because
guess.
in the sense that she has the sex tape leaked.
Oh,
about
right,
her.
right.
Right.
It doesn't even faze me anymore.
No, well, anyway, sorry. I was just Evan. Please continue. I was just about to
Yeah.
start. I was going to launch into something.
Yeah, I think actually here's a slightly longer story plot summary written by user Brian Fabulous from IMDb. It gives slightly more context. A stylish neo-noir thriller centered on a married couple, Annette and Ben, whose lives begin to fracture when their daughter is cast alongside a glamorous movie star, Alicia. As Annette's suspicions of Ben's infatuation with Alicia intensify, their secrets and lies threaten to burst to the surface and destroy them all. That's
actually
that's
from
slightly better. Yeah.
That's from
Yeah.
the press release.
Oh, is it?
Yes,
Well, thank you, Ben.
Well,
Fabulous.
Brian Fabulous took credit for it, motherfucker.
exactly. Jerk.
Watches like somebody who like worked on the movie. They're like, I want a good plot summary here. Let's check it from the press notes.
Well, Brian Fabulous, if you're in the press team or on the crew, my apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a much better summary.
Yes.
Yep. Their daughter, you see in the beginning, they're filming their daughter's like screen test, and she gets cast in this movie with this, movie star. And yeah, as Dave mentioned, she had a sex tape that was leaked. And I mean, pretty much right away, the husband is being gross about it. Like Ben is like watching he's like both critiquing like, oh, like, people have these sex tapes, and he's like, but I'll watch it. And then like sits there and watches it, and is like, he's already like gross from the jump.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Yeah, he's
Like-
a real piece of work.
Like I would say inside the first like 10 minutes I wanted to punch him in the face.
I wanted to like throttle him as soon as he steals his wife's words when she's like, "Oh, that's so terrible. They shouldn't film them and release that." And he's like, "Oh, well, I guess they're just public property. Like that's just what they do and they're actors." And she's like, "No, that's disgusting." And then he takes her words verbatim and then uses that to defend, Alicia. And anyway, he's gross.
Yeah, he's gross from the jump. He's watching the sex tape. Then he makes that gross comment like, "Oh, well, she looks like she's enjoying it." Like, oh
God,
disgusting.
I forgot that.
And then he fires their nanny without telling, Daisy Ridley, his wife. And fucking when she asks like, "Oh, well, what am I supposed to do? I've got like a big like meeting today." He just fucking runs out of the house and leaves her stranded. So she has to take the baby to her work meeting where she's basically planning to ask for a job. Like she hasn't been working and you could tell she's wanting to ask for, her job back or something. And it's ruined because she has to take care of a crying baby at a restaurant and completely fucks things up. And just like inside those first few minutes, I just wanted to just punch him in the face because he was such a gigantic asshole.
Good job, Ben.
It only gets worse from there because he just like you both said, he starts coming on to Alicia right away, and trying to make this like, woe is me, I have a loveless marriage kind of situation. Like they have a day of shooting that gets canceled, and Alicia invites them back to their to her house, and he goes there and does this like sad puppy dog thing. Well, like, my wife doesn't love me or pay attention to me, and like, thanks for talking and listening to me. And like, meanwhile, inside that situation, he goes over to her house when he could have gone home to like relieve his wife from taking care of a crying baby, and spend time with his wife and daughter as a family. And instead he blows that off and doesn't even tell his wife that, the day was canceled. And he shows up super fucking late. It's like dark by the time they get home.
Yeah.
And like, she's had to deal with this crying baby all day and she's like losing her mind. Sorry, this movie hit a little bit close to home.
Yeah,
when I was watching it,
the
crying
baby is
babies and
definitely,
all, and how that could, a baby constantly crying could cause you to like just totally become unglued when you just like can't do anything to soothe the baby. Like she is just sitting there like listening to the baby cry on the monitor at one point, and she just runs out of the house and just runs and runs and runs as far as she possibly can until the monitor dies and she can't hear the baby crying anymore. Oof, that's a brutal moment.
It is.
So yeah, so what else? Oh, and then also like after he goes over there, he's like photographed there by paparazzi, and so there's a whole article like, "Oh, who's this new guy that Alicia's with?" And she sees it and like smashes her phone because she's so fucking pissed. She also smashes her mirror after that like work meeting goes awry. I feel like when she gets home, she's like seething with rage. And understandable. Like from the what I think is kind of interesting about like often in this style of like thriller with like a fractured marriage, shitty husband, they're often like the husband's shitty in like really subtle ways that you kind of like wondering for a while, is she kind of like unraveling because of like paranoia and like other things that are making her think that he's shitty, and then like eventually later they're like, oh, here's all the ways he was like shitty that were subtle that we, audience, you may not have realized the extent of. But in this, they just from the jump, like, he's shitty, he's horrible, and we're just gonna keep showing all the ways he's shitty and horrible all throughout the movie until we get to like the big like twist.
But it's interesting that you say that, and I love that because there's a line that Alicia says to Ben where she says something like, "Oh, I'll avoid the mad witch or the mad woman." And I'm like, oh, that's so gothic, like the mad woman in the attic, like very Jane Eyre, where, you have the guy and he's like, oh God, my wife is crazy. My wife is terrible. So I can be with you. And like, and he even says that routine, like talking about his wife, like he's like throwing Annette under the bus, like, oh, well, she's on medication now, as as if he's this like put upon guy. But it's like, no, you're absolutely right. Like the whole time, it's just this shtick and he's just repulsive and awful.
Yep. Yeah, he just goes right after Alicia, like flirting, texting, trying to arrange time to like cheat with her. Like he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna work on my writing," because he's a writer, and he's like, "Oh, well, why don't you and your kids go to the park or whatever?" And he's like at home, like showering and like trying to make plans to like cheat.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and he walked out on them once before. Don't forget that part.
Yes.
Yes,
For 8 months.
For months. Yep.
Yeah.
And he tries to diminish it by like, "Oh, I was only gone like a couple months," and she's like, 8. You were gone 8.
Yeah. Yep. So the texting and the imagining and the
Yep. It all kind of, I mean, like it keeps escalating in terms of like the things that are like going awry. Like he gets this like text from that's like, "Oh, like I got a surprise in your daughter's like trailer," and he finds like the baby monitor, and like on the other side he thinks that like Alicia's like stripping for him, and because he's not paying attention, the daughter wanders off and everyone spends the whole day trying to find her. And he tries to diminish that also. And also, one of the things I think that is really amazing about how scummy he is how he is not afraid to say really shitty things to his daughter.
Yes.
Like, to make her feel bad. Like after the whole pancake fiasco, where it's like, you know, they went over to Alicia's and Alicia made pancakes, and Annette is, you know, pissed because she's like, "That's like a thing we do. That's our thing. And you let some other like woman just make pancakes for her daughter." And he's like, "Good job, like, daughter, for making me look bad." And then he like says it later in the movie after his negligence and the daughter went missing. He's like, "Oh, thanks for making me look bad." Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah,
You're
he's
such
disgusting.
a shithead. You're such a shithead. Anyway, so we get to a point where like the affair is escalating, and he's deciding that he just wants to leave. You know, he's gonna thinking he's gonna leave his wife and like really give her what for. And so the movie what I'm trying to think of the order of things. So he gets like really sick and he can't go. So Annette goes to like watch the daughter there, and then she ends up being there on the day that they wrap. Because the next time she just like leaves really early in the morning and beats him to the punch and sticks him with the baby, which he's pissed about. But it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
Loser.
Move. Yep. And so then she invites Alicia over for dinner. As a like, "Oh, you could say goodbye to our daughter and we'll just have a nice dinner with you." And then when she shows up, he's like trying to make it like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave you for her," and this and that. And then you find out that he has not been texting her. Like first of all, he like gets really mad when he's like, Annette like provokes him, and he gets like really fucking mad and like scary, like abusive, like throwing shit and trying to grab Alicia while she's leaving. She's like, "Get the fuck off me." And then he thinks like, oh, he storms out and he's like, "I'm gonna leave you," and this and that. And then you find out while he's driving frantically in the woods, where everyone has almost gotten into car accidents multiple times during this movie, that at some point Annette swapped the phone number for Alicia with this other like burner phone that she has, and she's been texting him for most of this time and like gathering all of this info on this like affair and like leading him on, and then just making him look like a complete fucking like asshole and idiot for thinking that he was gonna like walk out on them, and he crashes his car and presumably dies.
Well, yeah, it's going up in flames when it cuts to the credits.
And she's blowing out a candle as if it's like, "Lights out, buddy."
Yep, that's true. So yeah, I probably jumbled some stuff up in there, but that's the movie. Dave, what did you think of this? Yeah, so we got 2 S this week.
I mean, you know, I kept waiting. You know, Evan. Full disclosure, Megan. Evan and I were texting while I was watching this because I was like, "What the fuck is with this movie?"
Oh,
it's like 10 minutes in, and you know, Daisy Ridley is like, what did I say? Something not going off the deep end, but and I have to admit, I was kind of half watching it because it there's something at the beginning. I think the husband was such an asshole from the, like Evan would say, from the jump, that I kind of tuned out. I was like, all right, I'm not going to deal with this. But anyway, so I'm I text him and he's like, hey, you should really just wait for it because it's gonna. I was like, all right. So I focused, then for the next 80 minutes because it's a very short movie. And watched it. And about an hour later, I'm like, okay, you were right. This movie is fucking bizarro. But it hadn't gotten to the twist yet when I sent that text. And then the twist happened, and I was kind of disappointed because I was like, I don't really think that physically she could have done all of the things that she did within the time frame she had. The way I don't think the time, being in the trailer with the wig and doing the sexy dance and yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's not bad, but I do question the wisdom of burning your husband to death, even if you're rightfully really, really angry with him. Oh well. It's a thriller after all. So.
Yep. It is.
I did say though that I did admire the way it ratcheted up the just bizarro happenings, like each thing that Ben gets involved in gets a little bit more extreme, and Daisy Ridley's face looks more like her glower, she adds 10% to it each time that he does something fucked up. So I thought that those were like nice touches, but I didn't really feel like story-wise there was anything special about this. I think Daisy Ridley's good, but I think the kid was not so good. Every time she was on screen, I'm like, can you try to act like you know how to act like a kid, please? Thank you. But I feel that way about a lot of kids in movies. So, yeah. I think it's also because Ben is such a hateful prick that it's just, you kind of know you're waiting for his comeuppance. And it's like, if I have to listen to this guy just be a complete fucking asshole for 85 minutes, then this is going to be a real bummer. So there was that too. How about you, Megan? You look like you've got things
fantastic.
to say. Yeah.
I thought this was fantastic. I thought it was great. I like you. I think Daisy Ridley is great. I always think she's great. I love her in the Star Wars films, but I think her post-Star Wars career, although I say post, but she's going to resume her Star Wars career. But I think her post-Star Wars career is really fascinating, the roles she's choosing. And this is an idea that she had. I don't know how much of the idea she had, but the story was, started from her, something she had in her mind. And I love the idea of, you mentioned his comeuppance, Dave, and I love the way this unfolds. I love how he gets his comeuppance. I knew it was coming, and I actually knew the twist very early on. I'm like, there's no way in hell the way that Annette is interacting with Alicia. I'm like, there's something else going on here. And I'm like, I bet he's not even texting her. And so I knew it very early on, but that didn't diminish my enjoyment once I saw it unfold. I just liked it even more. I was like, yes, this is exactly where it should be going. This is great. So I love Daisy Ridley. I love Matilda Lutz. I've loved her ever since seeing her in Coralie Fargeet's Revenge. She's so good in that.
She's good in that.
Great in this.
Yeah.
She's going to be coming out in Red Sonja, which I can't wait for. I think she's really underrated. So I was excited to see her. I did not have a problem with Tilly, the little girl.
Really?
I mean, I don't think she's like the best child actor, but I don't think she's the worst either. She kind of was there. I mean, I think the point is that she's supposed to be precocious, so I guess maybe her precociousness kind of worked in favor of this character, which is maybe why I didn't have a problem with her. The way I might have if it was a different character for a kid, like wasn't a child actor, I might have had a problem with her child acting. I think the guy, I feel terrible. What is his name? The guy who plays Ben is Shazad Latif. He's good. He's really good at being a scumbag. He was also really good in, I liked him in Penny Dreadful. And I liked him even more here. I think he's so good as such a creep with like layers of creepiness, like in his, in his indifference for Annette's like it's clear she's unhappy and she's not feeling fulfilled and she's not feeling like they're connected. Like she talks about how lonely she is and he doesn't give a shit and he just cares about his own, egotistical problems with writing and chasing after Alicia. But yeah, I really liked the way this story unfolded and I found it really captivating. Yeah, and I'm always here for a gross dude to get what's coming to him, and I think it really happens in kind of a delicious way. So I found this a delight.
I think I'm much more on your page, Megan, about this movie. I also was really digging the ratcheting up of the tension. I enjoyed the twist that she was texting with. She was texting with him the entire or most of the time. I think there were two elements of that I'm not. I was struggling as to whether they added up. There were two things. So it seems like she swapped the number in the phone fairly early on. And there was, so he went to her house and they had that in-person interaction. There was the time where he like defended her in front of the shitty crew guys who were watching, that video. There was a time that they went for that walk together and they hugged. And then, so she seemed to swap the number fairly early on. There was that weird interaction much later in the movie where it seemed like from a distance that she told the daughter to go like kiss his hand. Which I was
to
like,
kiss it to make it better. Yeah.
Right. Because I was kind of like, I'm not really sure how that adds up. If that, like, in the context of like, they weren't really texting. I thought that was like a little bit strange. And then there was that other piece about, when he was sick, and you don't ever see when Annette goes in, you don't ever see her say like, oh, Ben is out sick. But like, it's implied that if she's showing up that Ben can't be there. And then later when she sees Alicia's like,
right.
oh, how is Ben feeling? Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, well, how do you know he's sick? And she creates that moment. It just seems weird to me that if she was the one texting, that she would create that awkwardness and make Alicia feel bad about it. That was just
a weird moment.
That was bizarre. And she was like, well, how do you know? And she's like, well, Emily told me. And Emily was like, I don't know if she was I don't know what her role was, but she was like AD. The main person they're interacting with. And so I was like, yeah, I guess in theory, Emily could have told her. But that was just one piece that was like, for an otherwise like really taut kind of like movie, that didn't quite add up to me. Those two small pieces. So I feel like that was the only thing I was really kind of hung up on, was like not really sure how those fit into the I've been catfishing him pretty much this entire time part of the scheme.
I feel like the hand one could be explained possibly, but I think you're right, Evan. I think the one about the sick, it's supposed to clearly be a red herring, to get to throw off the audience, not a red herring, but like supposed to throw off the audience. But you're right, it doesn't logistically work. And I know you said earlier, Dave, you're not sure if Annette could have done all those things. And I think you're right about that too. Cause like, arguably they might've left her alone because maybe she had to pump or, whatever. But at the same time, like that's a lot of like running around to like put the wig on, put the outfit on, stage everything. Like, yeah. So I think, and then do the texting and then, take off the wig, and then run out. Like, yeah. So I think you're right. Logistically, it might not all make sense. So I think you're both right.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I liked the twist. Like, I love that she was catfishing him this entire time and makes him so mad that he crashes his car. And also, I kind of laughed that, like, the scene where she was driving in the woods and, like, swerved the car was because she was, like, trying to text under the seat. I was like, that's pretty fucking dangerous to be doing.
Yeah. It's also kind of funny, too. I was like, some much-needed humor in this movie.
Right. And of course, like when he was there, I think he said something like really shitty and sexist about her about being a bad driver or some shit like that when she like had to hit the brakes suddenly.
He says you have to watch the road and be more careful, but he probably does say something else gross.
This is one of those things. This is one of the reasons that I scratch my head about this whole thing existing at all, is he's so fucking awful. Like, And it's not like this behavior just happened overnight. I mean,
She has that friend in the park that like talks about his bad behavior.
Yeah. And it's like, so how did you even forget about leaving him? Let's not go there because there are all kinds of reasons that you stay with people. But how did you ever fucking get together with him? Because there's no way he hid that all. No way. I mean, I know some men like baby trap or try to, but like, I don't know. This guy's such a shit. I don't know how you could keep that under wraps because it's just like his core. There's nothing redeemable about this fucking person. I don't know.
I think there are a lot of shitty, awful, disgusting, abusive people who are quite charming in the beginning.
I know. Well, they should have shown him being charming.
I agree. It actually, although I guess I didn't find him charming, but we also know his grossness, but he's kind of sort of nice, charming-ish to Alicia. So,
well, yeah.
But we already know he's gross. So it's like,
right. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard for us to like. She's only seeing such a small fraction.
Exactly.
Of who he is.
Yeah. No, but that's a great question, Dave. But yeah, but that's how I thought of it. I was like, no, a lot of these jagweeds hide that, you know, and
then poor Alicia being used as a pawn in their fucking weird marriage thing. And she seems, for a movie star, she seems like kind of a, kind of a soft-spoken sort of, maybe not. I think that she's guarded because of the sex tape leak, but
absolutely,
she doesn't seem like diva-ish or anything. She's just, kind of a woman who acts, and also happens to be really good looking. But yeah, I felt bad for her too,
I did too.
Especially when the way I wasn't sure entirely what the twist was going to be, but like the way that he grabbed her arm when she was leaving and then she told him to get off, I was like, oh no. And I was like, no, they're not having an affair. Like, this is what the fuck. And then, obviously Daisy Ridley pulls out the phone. You're like, oh, it all comes
and
together.
Also when he said, I'll call you. And she's like, what?
What?
Yeah.
That's a big tip off. Yeah.
Yeah, she's confused. She's put off by the arm grab, which I mean, you should be put off anyway. But
he already, flipped his lid and threw something, hit the table. I don't remember exactly what he did, but it was the kind of I'm a scary, abusive guy that's, kind of hiding that under the surface, but one wrong thing that pisses me off, and you're going to see that.
Yep.
Oh, there is another thing that made me laugh. It's when he's telling Annette that he's leaving her, and he says, Alicia and I have something real. And I was just like, oh. Yeah. It's like, do you though?
Yeah. I love her her cool, calm, like just, oh, okay, Ben. Okay, Ben. Oh, all right. But also I love talking about ratcheting up. I love how she confronts him in small ways. It kind of grows. And then like at the dinner party, she's telling him, she's like, get the hell out of my way, when he's like blocking her when Alicia comes for dinner. Anyway.
Yep. It was delicious by the end. I very much was into this movie. Aside from, like I said, those couple of things that didn't. There's
some logistical things. Yeah,
some logistical challenges. Not like the worst, not like gaping plot holes, but kind of like if you were going to be so taut and tight with everything, I feel like you really should have like been bulletproof on this stuff.
That being said, you reasonably could explain away the "how do you know Ben's sick" with Emily told me, and that. Yeah, but we don't know, right? So
right.
It just I feel bad, like you said, Megan. You feel bad for her for being included in the dinner shenanigans, but also bad that if Annette was doing this, that she would make poor Alicia feel uncomfortable in that moment.
I know.
She's so off-putting to her about like, oh, well, how do you know Ben's sick? Like she's confronting her.
Yeah, it's very accusatory.
Yeah, why make this poor woman uncomfortable?
I'm acting in a movie with your kid, and I like your kid, and I'm just worried about her dad. What the fuck?
I'm just being nice to people. What's going on?
The look on her face is just kind of like, Jesus, I didn't expect this.
Right? That's also her look at dinner too. She's like, what the fuck? I got to get out of here.
Yeah. You can see
Yeah.
how uncomfortable she is. Just and,
Yes.
like when she's watching the two of them, it's like, ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any spray.
Well, sorry it wasn't more engaging for you, Dave.
I mean, I didn't dislike it at all. I will say that. I don't think there's anything really to, aside from Ben, which you're supposed to hate him.
Yeah, totally.
There's nothing like shitty about this movie. I also like the use of shadows and like light and things like that. It's very moody and atmospheric in that way. So.
Yep. Very gothic, very neo-noir. Love that.
Second movie this week where a character breaks a window, a mirror. Carrie. Over on Patreon.
And also a car gets on fire.
Big car set on fire. That's right.
Yep. Very true. Very true.
Clearly, both were homage to Carrie.
Yes.
You heard it here in Spoiler Piece.
This is... Thinking about the car, this is such a minor thing, but this is something that I did really appreciate that the film did. I really like when Daisy Ridley as Annette is really, she's so irate that she has to take the baby to that meeting and she can't get the seatbelt because she's so angry. She's like trying to pull it so fast and it's like catching. Yeah. And she like takes a deep calming breath and then it works. And it's like such a simple maneuver, but I really appreciated that small touch. Just a nice little touch.
I should try that breathing the next time I pull my seatbelt too hard, which is every time I get in the car.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great scene. I'm glad you brought that up because I'd forgotten about it.
Oh, thanks.
All right. We have anything else we want to say about Magpie?
I was sad that the bird died that flew into the window.
I was thinking I've seen a lot of movies where birds have flown into windows, but I just watched The Conjuring a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, oh that's what I'm remembering.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah. I felt bad for the bird, too. They should have one of those fake birds on the window.
Yes.
Does that prevent them from flying into it?
Yeah, if you put like a fake bird of prey, like it's just like looks like a silhouette basically, then lots of smaller birds supposedly will avoid it because they see the larger bird and they're like, I don't want to fuck with that guy. So.
Oh, okay. Good to know. All right.
See the things you learn on Spoiler Piece.
That's right.
Not just here to talk about movies. We're here to talk about birds too.
Yeah, and that birds have thoughts like, "Oh, I don't want to fuck with that guy." So
that's right.
Yep, that's what they're saying when it's chirp, chirp, chirp means I don't want to fuck with that guy. All right, now we're starting to get loopy, so let's bring it in for a landing. Would you two recommend the line? Would you recommend that people see it? I feel like we're feeling all kind of meh about it.
I would not.
Yeah, it's fine if you see it. It's fine, but yeah, I don't think people need to.
I suppose
it. So I would not recommend it.
I suppose it depends on how much you want to watch the kid from Hereditary not knock his sister's head off her shoulders. So,
ooh.
Yeah,
fair. Yeah, I don't think I would recommend the line either. But I would recommend Magpie. How about you two?
I would
say your mileage will vary.
Okay. That's
not a skip, but it's
that's a come see, come saw.
Yeah. Ah oui. C'est comme si, comme ça.
Bien sûr.
All right. Well, that's been another episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. I want to say a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Klamer. Otto, thank you so much for making us sound great week after week.
Thanks,
Otto.
You can find us anywhere you get podcasts, but you can also find us at our website, which is spoilerpiece.com. We are on social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. We're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram. You can email us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with us. Or you can give us a call.
At 862-21-PEACE.
Talk to us about either the movies from this week, movies from a previous week, anything about movies, or literally anything else. We're always happy to hear from listeners. regardless of topic. So it's always nice. So feel free to reach out. And if you like the show, please consider rating and reviewing us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece, and that will take you to your platform of choice. It helps give us some cred out there in the podcast world, so we appreciate your reviews and ratings. Those are very much appreciated. And if you really, really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. As I mentioned at the top of the show, in this week's exclusive audio, we talk about the winner of our horror movie poll, which was the 1976 Carrie adaptation, and that was a lot of fun. And yeah, like I said, for $5 a month, you get access to weekly bonus episodes that we do for patrons. You get to vote in monthly polls, all that good stuff. So that brings us to the end. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast. And you can follow me on social media, Twitter, Letterboxd, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky as Real Recon. That's real as in film reel.
My name is Megan Kearns. Oh my God, I almost forgot what I was saying. I got the giggles earlier. I write for Edge Media Network. I'm co-host of the Slashers podcast. I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Opinion S World, or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Opinion S.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm Dave Sees Movies on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and Threads.
Yeah, you are.
I am.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.